The bullet tore through the air like a lover's final scream. And in that instant, I died, me body crumpling into the Iraqi sand, blood pooling warm and sticky under a relentless sun. But death wasn't the end. It was the chain that bound me to him. Elias Kane, the unbreakable sergeant who dragged my lifeless form from the ambush, his hands slick with my blood, whispering promises to a ghost he couldn't yet see. For 12 years, I haunted him in silence, a spectral shadow in his fractured American life, until the night gunfire cracked through his quiet Kansas farmhouse, and I watched him rise not as a broken man, but as the fierce warrior whose heart I had always craved. I remember the heat of that desert day in 2007 like it was etched into my soul. Because it was. Fallujah's streets were a labyrinth of shattered concrete and suspicion, where every shadow hid a sniper and every ally could turn traitor. I was Jamie Hale, 22, fresh-faced private from a nowhere town in Ohio, with dreams bigger than my dog Tag's dreams of heroism, of going home to a world that might finally accept the quiet ache in my chest for men like Elias. He was my squad leader, 30-something steel-wrapped in camo, with eyes like storm clouds over the plains and a voice that could steady a trembling line. We called him Kane behind his back, like he was some mythic avenger. But to me, he was everything forbidden, the rough scrape of his stubble when he'd clap my shoulder after drills, the way his laugh cut through the fear like a blade. That ambush came out of nowhere. We'd been clearing a blockhouse, the air thick with dust and the metallic tang of cordite. I was point man, heart pounding as I kicked in a door, rifle up, scanning for threats. Then the world exploded, RPG fire ripping through the wall, shrapnel slicing like invisible knives. I felt it hit me square in the chest, a bloom of fire that stole my breath. I hit the ground, gasping, tasting copper, my vision tunneling to Elias's face as he charged in, bellowing my name. Hale. Stay with me, kid. His arms were around me, hauling me out, bullets whining past like angry hornets. I wanted to tell him then, in that fading haze, how every night in the barracks, I'd stolen glances at his sleeping form, imagining a life where I could touch him without shame. But the words dissolved into blood, and darkness claimed me. When I woke, or whatever you call it when you're dead, but aware I was weightless, untethered, a shimmer in the ether watching Elias grieve. He carried my body to the medevac chopper himself, his face a mask of granite cracking at the edges, tears carving tracks through the grime. Not you, Hale, he muttered, over and over, as if cursing fate could rewind the tape. The bond formed in that moment. Invisible chains forged from unfinished business and unspoken longing. Spirits like me, they say in the old tales, latch onto the living when there's something left undone. For me, it was Elias Kane, the man who'd saved my squad a dozen times but couldn't save me. And so I followed, a ghost adrift on the winds of his life, invisible to all but bound to his every step. Back in the States, Elias unraveled thread by thread. He landed in rural Kansas, on a crumbling family farmstead his grandfather had scraped together after World War II. The house was a relic, sagging porch, fields choked with weeds, a barn that echoed with ghosts of its own. He tried to rebuild, took odd jobs welding at the local mill, fixed up the old Ford truck with grease-stained hands, but the nightmares came nightly. I'd hover at the foot of his bed, watching him thrash, sweat-soaked sheets tangling around his muscled frame. Jamie, he'd gasp in the dark, my name a talisman against the demons. He didn't know I was there, but I felt every tremor, every unspoken plea. In those early months, I raged against my intangibility, screaming silent curses at the ceiling, wishing I could hold him through the shakes, whisper that I was safe now, that he was the one who needed saving. LGBTQ life in Middle America back then was a tightrope walk over a pit of judgment. Elias wasn't out, no one in our unit was. Not with don't ask, don't tell, hanging like a guillotine. But I'd seen the signs, the way he'd linger on a soldier's form in the showers. Eyes darkening with hunger he buried deep. Rumors swirled in Fallujah about a night in Kuwait. Him and another sergeant vanishing into the shadows. But no one dared voice it. Me. I was the quiet, queer kid from a Baptist family that prayed away my confusion with Bible studies and forced smiles. Enlisting was my escape, a way to prove I was man enough to outrun the truth. Now, as his unseen guardian, I learned Elias's secrets intimately. He'd drive into Wichita some weekends, to dimly lit bars where men like us could breathe without apology or trade in leather jackets. Stolen kisses in alleyways reeking of rain and regret. I'd trail him, a jealous specter, aching as he'd pull a stranger close, their bodies grinding in rhythm to some country ballad, while his eyes stayed distant, haunted by sand and loss. Years blurred into a monotonous haunt. Elias aged into his 40s with the grace of a battered oak lines etching his forehead, silver threading his close-cropped hair. But that fire in his belly never dimmed. He volunteered at the VFW, mentoring young vets with the same gruff empathy he'd shown me, sharing stories of brotherhood that skirted the edges of his isolation. War takes pieces of you, he'd say over beers, voice gravelly, but it gives you brothers who die for you. I'd linger in the smoke-hazed hall, invisible among the patriots, my heart twisting as he spoke of me, Private Hale, the kid who gave everything. He kept my dog tags on his nightstand, polished to a gleam, a relic of what we'd almost had. But loneliness was a slow poison. Elias drank too much, whiskey burning away the days, his hands shaking as he stared at faded photos of our squad. I tried to comfort him in futile ways, rustling curtains on windy nights, flickering lights to mimic hope, but he chalked it up to ghosts in the machine, the farm's old wiring. One winter, after a brutal blizzard buried the fields, he hit bottom, found him slumped in the barn, bottle in hand, revolver on the hay bale, eyes hollow as he traced the barrel along his temple. "What's left, Jamie?" he whispered to the empty air. Panic surged through my ethereal form. I hurled myself at him, willing every ounce of my spectral energy into a gust that knocked the gun clattering. He jerked back, swearing, glancing around wild-eyed. For the first time, doubt flickered had he felt me. That night, as he patched the roof by lantern light, muttering about crazy winds, I vowed to break through, to make him see that love didn't end in a desert grave. Spring brought fragile green to the Kansas plains, and with it, whispers of change. Elias started running, pounding the dirt roads at dawn, breath fogging in the chill, rebuilding his body like armor against despair. I'd race alongside, my form a blur in the mist, cheering silently as he pushed harder, sweat carving paths of determination down his face. It was during one such run that I first sensed the shift, a crack in the veil between us. He paused at the old creek bed, gulping water from a canteen, and murmured, "You out there, kid? Feels like you're still watching my six." My core whatever passed for a heart in this limbo lurched. I concentrated, willing a chill breeze to stir the willows. And he shivered, a half-smile ghosting his lips. "Yeah. Thanks. Hale." Emboldened, I tested the boundaries. That summer, he fixed up the garden, hands deep in soil, coaxing tomatoes and corn from stubborn earth. I'd nudge seeds into place with ethereal puffs, scatter rain from passing clouds a touch heavier on parched plots. His yields doubled, neighbors jawing about his green thumb luck. Elias laughed it off, but his eyes scanned the horizon more often, searching. Nights grew electric. He'd sit on the porch with a sketchpad, charcoal smudging his fingers as he drew desert scenes bleeding into impossible visions of a young man with my face, half faded into mist. "Who the hell are you dreaming up?" He'd chuckle to himself, but the loneliness in his voice cut me deeper than any shrapnel. Then came Alex. He rolled into town like a dust devil mid-20s drifter with sun-bleached hair and a tattooed sleeve of desert roses. Fresh from his own tour in Afghanistan. Hired on at the mill. He crossed Elias's path at the VFW poker night. All cocky grins and easy charm. I hated him on sight. This interloper with laugh lines that crinkled just right. Stirring Elias in ways I couldn't. They bonded over shared scars, Alex's limp from an IED. Elias's ghosts from Fallujah. Beers turned to late-night talks on the farm porch. Fireflies dancing like jealous stars. I'd seethe in the shadows, rattling shutters in petty rage. But Elias only grew lighter, his shoulders easing under Alex's flirtatious jabs. "You're a tough old bird, Kane," Alex teased one evening, hand lingering on Elias's knee. "But I bet you've got a soft spot somewhere." Elias flushed, pulling away with a gruff laugh. But his eyes betrayed the spark, the same forbidden hunger I'd seen in the barracks. Jealousy clawed at me, a specter's fury. I escalated, slamming doors in the night, toppling tools from the workbench, even chilling the air until frost rimed the windows in July. Alex noticed, of course called it poltergeist pranks. But Elias defended me, unknowingly. "Farm's got spirits," he said, voice low, old souls sticking around. One humid night, as thunder rumbled distant, they kissed under the oak tree, Elias pinning Alex against the bark, hands roaming with desperate need. I howled through the branches, whipping leaves into a frenzy, until a bough cracked and plummeted, forcing them apart. Alex bolted, spooked, muttering about curses. Elias stood alone in the rain, chest heaving, whispering, "Damn it, Jamie. Is that you?" The confrontation built like a haboob on the horizon. Elias started researching books on hauntings from the library in Wichita, online forums buzzing with vet ghost stories. He lit candles in the barn, spoke aloud to the dark, "If you're here, hail, give me a sign. I can't keep chasing shadows." Desperation fueled me. I poured everything into one act, manifesting a whisper, faint as wind through reeds, "Elias." He froze, lantern trembling in his grip, then roared, "Show yourself." The air thickened, charged, and for a heartbeat, I solidified a flicker of my young face. Bloodied uniform, eyes brimming with 12 years of pin-up love. He staggered back, whispering my name like a prayer, and in that vulnerability, the bond deepened, pulling me closer to the veil. But peace was a lie. Alex returned, drawn by unfinished heat, and their affair reignited stolen weekends in the city. Bodies entwined in motel sheets that smelled of cheap soap and regret. I'd trail them, a bitter wraith, manifesting chills that raised goose flesh on their skin mid-embrace. Elias confided in him one dawn. "Tangled in sheets, there's a ghost. Alex. My ghost. The kid I lost." Alex laughed it off at first, but doubt crept in as objects flew. Whispers echoed. Tension simmered. Arguments flared over my interference. Alex accusing Elias of clinging to the dead. "Let go, man," he pleaded, voice cracking. "You're alive. We could be something." Elias wavered, torn between the warmth of flesh and the echo of my soul. The breaking point shattered on a crisp autumn evening. Elias was in Wichita for a vet support group, sharing his haunting with skeptical nods and awkward silences. Alex waited at the farm, but trouble had followed him home, a ghost of his own making. Back in Kandahar, Alex had skimmed supply routes, pocketing cash from black market deals to fund his sister's chemo. It caught up, shadowy figures from his past. Ex-grunts turned mercenaries, kicking in the farmhouse door with demands and drawn Glocks. Alex, cornered in the kitchen, fumbled for the old hunting rifle above the fridge. But they were 3-1, faces twisted in betrayal. I felt it before I heard the ripple of violence slicing the ether, yanking me across miles to Elias's side. Gunfire erupted as I materialized in the foyer. Bullets chewing through walls, splintering the oak table where Elias had sketched my face. Alex fired wild, clipping one assailant in the shoulder. But another tackled him, pistol whipping him to the floor. Blood sprayed, and rage ignited my spectral form. I'd never manifested so solid, fury lending weight to my incorporeal hands. I hurled a chair into the fray, slamming it into the gunman's back, buying Alex seconds to scramble. But it was Elias who saved the day, bursting through the door like thunder incarnate, his service pistol barking precise shots from the truck's glove box. He'd sensed the wrongness miles away, that inexplicable pull we'd always shared, flooring the Ford back home. The first intruder spun toward him, muzzle flashing, and time fractured. Elias didn't flinch, stood cold and unyielding in the gunfire, a colossus of resolve, returning fire with lethal calm. One down, headshot clean. The second lunged, knife gleaming, but Elias sidestepped, driving an elbow into the throat, then a knee to the gut, ending it with a point-blank round. The third fled into the night, tires screeching on gravel, but Elias pursued, vanishing into the storm-lashed fields. I watched, transfixed, as he moved, not the broken vet I'd haunted, but the warrior I'd fallen for in Fallujah. Every motion poetry in violence. Bullets whined past, but he was a shadow among shadows, relentless. My heart, if it still beat, swelled with pride and ache. The man I'd loved standing tall against the abyss. Alex, bruised and bleeding on the floor, stared in awe as I hovered, my form flickering brighter, drawn to Elias's fire. He returned at dawn, soaked and spent, collapsing beside Alex with a grim nod. "You okay?" Elias rasped, binding wounds with steady hands. Alex nodded, eyes wide. "Your ghost." He was here, through that chair. Elias's gaze swept the room, landing on me, fully visible now, the veil torn asunder by the night's fury. "Jamie," he breathed, reaching out, fingers passing through but feeling the chill of truth. In that moment, everything shifted. The bond that chained me loosened, not in release, but in revelation. Elias pulled Alex close, but his eyes stayed on me, a bridge forming across the divide. "I see you, kid. God, I've always seen you." We talked he talked. I whispered, pouring out the years, my unspoken love in the barracks. His guilt-fueled isolation, the way I'd been his anchor in the dark. Alex listened, jealousy melting into understanding, his own queerness a mirror to ours. "Three's a crowd," he joked weakly, but there was no malice, only the raw humanity of survival. Healing came slow, like dawn over the plains. Elias burned sage in the barn, not to banish me, but to honor rituals, blending vet grit with spectral grace. Alex stayed, their bond deepening into something real, unshadowed by my presence. But I was no longer just a ghost. The violence had forged me corporeal in glimpses, enough to brush Elias's cheek on quiet nights, to share a beer on the porch under starlit skies. We built a life entwined, Elias and Alex marrying in a quiet ceremony at the VFW. Me, the invisible best man, whispering vows into the wind. The climax came one Veterans Day, as snow dusted the fields. Elias stood at my grave in the local cemetery, Alex beside him, hands clasped. "You bound me, Jamie," Elias said, voice thick. "Taught me love doesn't die easy." I manifested fully then, for the first time since Fallujah, a young man in fatigues, solid as the earth, pulling him into an embrace that warmed us both. Alex joined, our triad a testament to fractured hearts mending whole. No more chains, just freedom and acceptance, the human spark defying even death. In the end, as spring bloomed eternal, I faded not into oblivion, but transcendence, watching over the farm where laughter echoed anew. where love wore many faces without shame. Elias Kane, once cold in Gunfire, stood warm in life's embrace, proving that even ghosts could find their way home. And in that, we all healed the warrior, the drifter, and the spirit who loved them both.